Good day, everyone. We are the Group 8 reporters, and our topic for today is all about assessment of one's teaching practice, reflective practice using learner attainment data. As we go through our topic today, we will delve into the multifaceted nature of teaching assessment, exploring various methodologies, tools, and frameworks to enable us to evaluate our instructional strategies, engage with student feedback, and adapt our approaches to meet with diverse needs of learners. But first, allow me to read the lesson objectives for this discussion. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to identify the different documents that teachers can use to monitor learners' performance. Second, discuss reflective self-assessment using learner assessment data and other reflection aids for purposes of adjusting one's teaching practices and for purposes of growing in the profession. And last is explain how professional reflection and learning can be used to improve teaching practice. Introduction. In this chapter is now focused on the assessment on your own teaching practice as a future teacher. Necessarily, teachers have to examine learners' performance if they really want to know how effective they are in their teaching. The learners' test scores and learners' non-test data and other information serve as a learner attainment data. So in this chapter, we are all focusing in the learner test score and learner non-test data. So what is reflective practice using learner attainment data? Reflective practice is in its simplest form, thinking about what you do. It is closely linked to the concept of learning from experience, in that you think about and monitor what you did and what happened and decide based on that what you would do differently next time. The reflective practice for teachers whose main task is to teach and to analyze data that reveal if they are teaching effectively or not as proven by learners' learning expressed in learners' test scores derived from traditional assessment or in non-test data shown in learners' products, processes performed, and changes in attitude, values, and motivation, authentic and performance assessment. Learners test scores. There's 8 types of our learners test scores, but before we will go through that, let me first read what is our learners test scores. Learner test Learners test scores refers to the result or outcomes of assessment that measures a learner's performance, understanding, and skills in a particular subject or course. These test scores provide valuable information about a student's academic progress, strengths, areas for improvement, and level of achievement. Our first test scores is raw scores. A raw score represents a total number of correct answers or points a student earned in a test or assessment without any adjustments or transformation. So that is the example of our raw scores. So another example for raw score is if a student is answered 50 out of 100 question correctly, they would receive 50 in a raw scores. So second is percentage score. When we say percentage scores is calculated by dividing the number of points earned by the total possible points and multiplying by 100. It indicates the proportion of correct answers relative to the total possible score. So in the picture below, that is the example of our percentage score. Next is standard score or Z-score. A standard score, also known as z-score, reflects a student's performance in relation to a mean and standard deviation of the test population. It provides information about how far a student's score deviates from the average. So in the picture below, that is the example of how to solve our z-scores or standard scores. Next is our percentile rank. A percentile rank indicates the percentage of scores that fall below a student's scores. For example, a student at the 75th percentile performed better than 75% of the test takers. So, in the picture below, that is the example of our percentile rank. So, it is useful tool for comparing individuals' performance within a group or population. Grade equivalent scores. A grade equivalent score compares a student's performance to typical grade levels. It indicates the grade level at which a student's performance is similar to the average performance of students at that grade level. So, the picture below is the example of the grade equivalent score. However, it's important to understand that grade equivalent score can be misleading. It's interpreted as grade placement. They are derived from norms and represent the average performance of students at particular grade level rather than mastery of a specific content. Therefore, it's crucial to interpret them alongside other assessment data to gain a comprehensive understanding of a student's ability and needs. So next is Stanine score. Stanine scores divide a distribution of scores into 9 equal parts, with a Stanine of 5 representing the average performance. Stanine scores provide a broad categorization of performance level. So in the picture below, that is the example of our Stanine score, which is 1 to 3 is the below average, 4, 5, 6 is the average, and the above average is 7, 8, and 9. They are most effective when used in conjunction with other assessment measures and should not be the sole basis for making educational decision. So next one is our scaled score. When we say scale score is a transformed score that adjusts for variations in test difficulty across different versions or administrations of a test. It allows for fair comparison of performance. So in the picture below, that is the example of our scale score. So scaled score are particularly useful because they provide a more accurate representation of an individual's performance relative to the entire testing population. They also allow for the aggregation of scores from multiple sections or subjects into a single composite score, facilitating comprehensive score reporting and analysis. Lastly is diagnostic score. When we say diagnostic score, it is provide detailed information about a student's strength and weaknesses in specific skill areas, helping educators tailor instruction to address individual learning needs. Diagnostic scores may be used to inform instructional planning, tailor interventions to students' specific needs, or monitor progress over time. So the picture below is the example of our diagnostic test scores.
So here's the breakdown for the report. So tests are useful, but they don't tell the whole story. Non-test data like projects, portfolios, and other information that I given to you, it provides a more well-rounded picture of a student's strengths and also their weaknesses. And also, By combining these two, the test scores and also the non-test data, teachers can create a more effective learning environment. They can create a stronger foundation, increase confidence to students, and also a overall successful to a student. So non-test data and also a test data is a powerful tool that empowers teachers to personalize instruction, support individual needs, and also a ultimate and to improve student outcome for a richer learning experience. So these are some example of a non-test and other information. First example is the projects. So projects are typically created so that students may produce a product of some sort, putting many of the skills they have learned in the course to use. So courses often to have projects where students create something like a presentation or a model. These projects let students use all the skills they've learned throughout the course. And also project assignments are typically assigned early in the course and have deadline at the end of the quarter. So the second is homework. So homework is an organized practice, the task that is typically included in the graded process. So to free up class time for some practical work, teachers will occasionally assign readings or other homework that addresses the theoretical components of the course. So homework is also called an assignment. So assignment or homework is a structured practice assigned outside of class time. It often contributes to a student's final grade. Teachers may use homework to solidify also the theoretical concept learned in the class, allowing them to dedicate class time to more hands-on to their activities. So the third one is debate. So by using debate as a technique for evaluation, teachers can better understand students' knowledge, critical thinking, communication, and teamwork abilities and get a more complete picture of the learning. So debate is also can be powerful tools for teachers to assess students' learning beyond traditional tests. So number one, for including the debate is the students' knowledge about the subject. So debate requires students to research and understand the topic thoroughly to form a strong argument. So second, that can help the students is their critical thinking because students need to analyze information, identify strengths and weaknesses in opposing viewpoints, and build their own legal arguments. So, overall, by evaluating these skills during a debate, teachers gain a more well rounded picture of a student's learning compared to just a written test. So, the fourth one is games. So, games is teachers give pupils enjoyable exercises to practice and review material. And according to academics and developers, games draw players in and encourage complex thought and problem solving. So teachers are increasingly using games to make learning fun and engaging while also promoting critical thinking. So also teachers give students more engagement to their learning. So also games can be intrinsically motivating, making students excited to participate and learn. Also, games can also be practice and also be a review. Educational games can provide a fun way for students to practice and solidify concepts learned in class. And also, games can be complex thinking. Many games require players to solve problems, think strategically, and make decisions under pressure, all of which are valuable cognitive skills for the students. So, will be an approach is supported by research and also the game developers who see the potential for games to not only entertain but also challenge the students intellectually. So the fifth one is the portfolio. So portfolio are compilations of the work and products of students. They need to include the best pieces from their entire collection of work, much like a photographer's portfolio. So portfolio also a collection of students' work. So portfolio can also be encourage students to take more ownership and responsibility over the work I over the learning process. So also portfolio is a collection of student work. It's a curated selection of students' projects, assignments, writings, and other creations. So also portfolio is showcasing the best work of a students, similar to a photographer's portfolio. It highlights the students' strongest pieces that demonstrate their learning and progress. So the next one is the anecdotal records. So anecdotal records are short written notes or records that captures a moment in time and describe what a kid says or does during routines and activities in the classroom. One method teachers might use to understand more about child's growth and learning process is to use a anecdotal record. So anecdotal record is a brief written record or note na snapshot in time documenting what child says or does during classroom activities and routines. Also, anecdotal records can also be a learning process by the children. They can reveal how a student is grasping concepts and areas they excel in and where they might need additional support. Also, it helps the students their development. They can track students' progress over time, not just academically but also socially and emotionally. And also, it needs the students their individual needs by observing a student's interactions and behaviors. So, by anecdotal records, the teachers can gain a better understanding of their individual learning styles and needs. So, overall, anecdotal records are a powerful tool for teachers to gain a more comprehensive pictures of a child's growth and learning journey. So the next one is class participation. So involvement in class is important for gaining the benefits of learning, despite the fact that it might occasionally be scary to students. But that actively participate in the subject matter are encouraged to generate ideas, and they are compelled to support their claims with evidence. In other words, it inspires pupils to learn effectively. So, class participation is also refers to a student active involvement in the learning environment. It goes beyond just physically being present in class, but also mentally present. So, class participation can also be actively engaging with the material. So, here's why. Asking thoughtful questions to clarify understanding to students. If the student have a kung may nalibugan ba siya sa class, so pwede siyang mag-ask ng questions. So, participation isn't just about talking a lot. It's about being present, engaged, and contributing meaningfully to the learning process. So, next one is checklist. So, checklist is involves a set of actions or stages that can be indicated as yes or no, present or absent, complete or incomplete, and etc. It is employed to document observations of a single person, a team, or the entire class. So it is also like anecdotal record, no? So checklists are simple tool used in a non-test assessment to record or observation. They function like a to-do list, but instead of tasks, they list specific actions, behaviors, or skills. So checklist may contain a structured and clear, a versatile application, and also easy data collection. So, checklist is a tool in non-test assessment because they provide a structured and clear way to document observations, offering valuable insights into student learning beyond traditional tests. So, the last one is the interview. So, interview refers to a meaningful conversation, fact-finding, introduction, evaluative, and instructive goals are the main goals of interview. So, interview in non-test structured conversation used to gather information about students' learning and understanding. It's different from a casual chat because it has specific goals. So, what are the goals of interview? It is fact-finding because teachers can use interviews to uncover a student's thought process, identify areas and confusion, and also to gauge the students in their depth understanding on the topic. So also interview can be evaluative. So interview can be used to evaluate students' learning progress, their ability to communicate their knowledge, and also their critical thinking skills. And also interview is an non-test assessment offer a valuable way for teachers to gain a deeper understanding of a student's learning journey beyond what a test score can reveal.
So here's a recap of our topic for today. By strategically incorporating these non-test data points, educators can gain a richer understanding of their students' strengths, weaknesses, and learning styles. This allows for more personalized instruction, targeted interventions, and ultimately improve students' outcome. So that's it. Thank you.